Welcome to Workforce Accessibility for All Ages, a webinar series brought to you by the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh Workforce Group. This webinar series seeks to cover successes, challenges, and resources job seekers might experience or need in re-entering or re-engaging the workforce. This series is an effort to create an equitable as well as equal workforce in Allegheny County as well as the city of Pittsburgh. Hello and welcome to the Workforce Accessibility for All webinar series season 2. My name is Monique Yost. I am one of the co-chairs of the Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh Workforce Group. My fellow co-chair and colleague, Dr. Charles Howell, and I will moderate today's episode where we will discuss the employee, and job seeker experience in the workplace. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up for panelists' introductions. May each of you introduce yourselves and share your role and organization.
Hi, my name is Mary Carey. I am a resident of the community of Braddock. I am a panelist on the Age-Friendly. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe also I was just recently laid off from my job of 10 years. I was told I would be called back in 2 years, hopefully. And I'm committed to my community of Braddock. I'm also on board, the zoning board of Braddock. I'm on the board of the 15104. I'm on different boards, but so I'm still really committed to my community, but once again, I have been laid off from my job of 10 years.
Thank you. Bishnu?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bishnu Timsina. I am a career counselor at JFCS Career Development Center. I have been working at JFCS for over 12 years at different capacity. So I started as a part-timer, and then I grew into full-time. And I did youth program for over 10 years, and now I work with just the adults. So I'm one of the career counselor.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Hi, I'm Bonnie Yeager. I am the manager of industry solutions at Partner for Work, which is the workforce development board for the city of Pittsburgh and the surrounding Allegheny County. And my role really is to work with local employers on addressing their recruitment and their retention challenges, and also any goals around diversity and equity, inclusion, and accessibility, while also really thinking about strategies that meet the needs of the employees and increases equity on the job seeker side.
Thank you. This webinar series is brought to you by Age-Friendly Greater Pittsburgh, an organization that seeks to ensure equitable and inclusive living for all residents of the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. Without further ado, let's jump right into conversation.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Let's really start right at the top. The last couple of years have exposed a whole wide array of issues in the employment field. We know that there's an aging workforce. We know that COVID has exposed some challenges that folks have had accessing different employment opportunities. What are some of the important sort of issues that job seekers really should be looking for as they look to take advantage of some employment opportunities that have come available the last couple of years? And you could each take a stab at it. We don't necessarily care who goes first.
Yeah, I can get started. One thing that comes to my mind is, when we talk about age-friendly, having an anti-discrimination policy at an employer's level, in their hiring process. There should be policies that does not discriminate based on what you look like or where you are from. I myself is an immigrant, so like lots of immigrant make a workforce in Allegheny County. So I feel like there should not be any discrimination based on race, religion, those kind of things, gender.
Yeah, and I would like to build off of that and say, like, from a job seeker's perspective, when you're going out and looking to find employment and sort of weighing your options and trying to gauge whether an employer or a workplace is a really good fit, especially for mature workers, it's really important to look at not just the obvious, but also the subtle clues that you can kind of pick up on. So in some cases, an employer might go so far as to identify themselves as an age-friendly employer or as a family supportive workplace. And that's a really obvious clue because that's an employer that, number one, knows that there's a difference between being just a generally inclusive workplace and being specifically inclusive to certain populations. And then on the subtler side, I would say, look at the actual work environment. Do you see workplace accommodations? Like whenever I walk into a retailer, I pay attention. Do the cashiers have a stool that they can sit on, or are they standing the entire time? There are some really subtle things that you can kind of look around for and see what is the actual practice. Because along with having really solid policies in place, you need to be able to see that those policies are being acted upon and they're a part of the everyday sort of working environment. Another way to pick up on subtle clues is when you're in an interview, really listen and pay attention to the interview questions that are being asked. It's a great way to get a little bit of a preview of what the work culture is. So there are still, unfortunately, instances where an interview team asks questions that might be legal but are not really appropriate. And we know what those interview questions are. They make us feel uncomfortable. They make us feel icky inside, especially if we're coming knowing that there are historic biases against us in the workplace. So for example, if you get asked a question about your family situation or your caretaking responsibilities, I think it's complete. Number one, that lets you know that that employer has not addressed that. They're not aware of it. So that might not be a good culture fit for you. If you have the sort of luxury of really shopping around for employment options, like pay attention to that. And then I think also be prepared to answer that question in a way that pushes back against the employer on it. So it's completely fine to say, can you tell me how that fits into the requirements of the job? Because then it's an opportunity not only for you to gauge the work environment, but also to start to nudge employers in the direction of becoming more supportive and more inclusive. And I think that that's something that, I would have to practice, and I have practiced, just like we practice answering any interview question. You want to have those things ready in the back of your mind so that it's very easy if you don't. It's so easy to get just sort of caught up in the moment and to get tongue-tied on it. So practicing things, phrases like that, seeing how they respond to it. Did you catch them off guard? Do they get defensive? Or do they say, oh my gosh, you're actually right. Don't worry about that. You don't need to answer that. So the way that they respond to you and how you answer certain questions is important. And then I think the other really important thing is to look around and ask yourself, do I see staff that are similar to me? And do I see a wide range of identities within this work culture? And is that representation, that wide range of representation at all levels, or is it concentrated at the lower levels of the organization? It can be a little bit hard. Like sometimes you have to do a little bit of research, go on the company's website, look to see if they have an About Us page, look to see if you can, like a lot of times the company will have photographs posted of their leadership team, and you can look to see if there's diversity within the leadership team. And that hints at whether or not they've been in an equity space for a long time. And if the answer to any of those questions is no, I don't see myself here. No, I don't see a wide range of different identities here, or all of the ranges of identities are at the bottom level and the leadership level is very homogenous, then the next step is to ask, do they have a tangible commitment to diversity, meaning not just a general commitment on their website, we support diversity in all ways, that's good, but do they have a tangible strategic plan around actually increasing equity? And another thing that you can look for is, do they have mentoring programs? An employer that's really committed to working toward equity, a lot of times they have certain mentorship programs in place. They'll have, for example, a returnship program that's focused on really individuals who are coming back into the workforce and supporting them. Do they have specific employee groups that build social capital within certain populations? So those are some of the things that I would recommend looking for or asking questions about.
I find it interesting because with me, as I said, just recently being laid off, in between the time that I worked at my job, I have had individual like part-time jobs, seasonal jobs, just to make extra money, maybe for the holidays. But I find it interesting just looking for a job now. I notice a lot of jobs ask questions about your social media presence. I couldn't quite understand that, but in a way I did, because I know a lot of people I've seen have had those moments that they were caught live doing something and got fired from their job. But I felt that was kind of almost in a way like an invasion of your privacy, because after you leave job, which you do on your private time is supposed to be your private time. At least that's what I assume. But now it seems like everything you do is being scrutinized in some way or form. So you can't make your own opinion. You can't voice your opinion any way or form. You can't basically like something, even though that's your opinion. You have to, like your job asks you, are you on social media? Are you on Facebook? I mean, these applications, I have came across applications that have asked that. And I just felt like that was a little bit too much, but I answered it. I mean, I'm not doing nothing crazy anyway on there, but I just found that was kind of interesting that they asked that question. And also, just now, even getting up there in age as well, when you go to a place, you see a lot of younger managers, and it's, I don't know. I don't know what I'm really trying to say right now, but it's like right there, but this is
so how do these issues sort of affect how you view those organizations?
I mean, that's their business. I understand, because I mean, as I said, I understand in a way, because you're a product of the company you work for. But I feel like that's when you come into the door. Like they always say, you have to have that winning. I do a lot of customer service. So, as soon as a person enters your establishment, and if you're the first person they see, you have to give them that good attitude to keep them wanting to come back, either come back or to stay. So, I mean, I do understand it in a certain degree, but as well, it's just like you're not really being who you are. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on what I'm trying to say, but
to be honest with you, Mary, you actually are leading us into one of our next questions. So I think hold on to that thought, because I really do think that the next question, you'll be able to kind of pivot off of that.
Yeah,
what
Monique,
jobs do you experience? Sure.
Sorry, can
Yeah,
I
go
just
for
say
it.
something real quick? Mary,
Absolutely.
I think that is a perfect example of a very subtle way of seeing whether there's work-life balance at that organization. Because if an employer is asking you about your social media presence, they want to gauge ahead of time whether or not your practices, how can I articulate this? Like it's a clue that the employer feels like they're entitled to know what you're doing in your free time. And there's a difference between that and then once you get hired, telling you about a policy where they lay out their expectations around your association with the business. So in a lot of cases, like a typical policy would be that You know, your social media is your social media, your personal social media. If you list your employer on your personal social media, then you need to be more cognizant about what you post. But if your
Mhm.
social media is private and you in no way indicate that you are with the organization, then like, so does that make sense? Like, it's, if they're asking it so early on in the process, that to me is an indicator that they feel like they should have some control over that. And that hints at work-life balance for the organization. Whereas if
Mhm.
they introduce the policy way later, it's a little bit more of a, it allows you to find that place for yourself there. That allows you to have your personal time and manage your personal responsibilities while still being an employee of the business. Does that feel kind of like along the lines of what you were thinking?
I mean, I guess, but like I said, it doesn't really bother me because I mean, I'm on it, but I'm not on it, and I'm not doing nothing any crazy, you know, but having fun with the family or something, you know. And truthfully, I don't know how to do all the stuff that the younger generation does, the TikToks, unless I'm over one of my niece's houses and my great nieces, you know, I'll try to jump in, photo bomb or photo, whatever they call it on their old TikToks and stuff. So, I mean, I really don't have a problem, but it was just interesting to me, as I said, to when I started job searching again, some of the questions that I found on the applications, and they asked you that a lot of the jobs, they asked you to do like a 5-minute video of yourself. It's almost like they're trying to see, do you look the part for our job? Or, you know what I'm saying? They're not
For sure.
they're not just basing it on your education or your experience. They want to see if you look the part. Do you fit our you know, our look? And I don't feel like it's like almost, if you don't look good, if you don't have that look, they're not going to call you back. It doesn't matter if you have the experience or the education, if you overqualify or even a little underqualified. Like some jobs they want, it's like they're looking for a certain look, and I really don't. I don't. I don't know. That's just my opinion. It's like they're just looking for a certain look when they ask for this little 2 or 3 minute video. What you gonna get from a 2 or 3 minute video besides me showing you my face, or you know?
For sure.
I don't get it. I'm
I
sorry.
think
I'm just like, I'm just stagnating on. But there's just some things I just feel. I don't know. But
it makes you feel different. No, I think honestly you're bringing up a really good point, because I think like I almost want to pick at that just a little bit more. So it's like, as a job seeker, especially now, and you were talking about kind of your workforce journey, what job seeking experiences have gone the best for you, and why? You know, what about those experiences were, because I know you just mentioned that there's some of those questions kind of made you feel kind of weird. So to kind of flip that just a little bit, what were some of the best experiences and kind of what made them quality or successful?
I don't know. I've just been working like little part-time jobs. I'm a very energetic person. I'm very I have a lot of good energy about myself. So I haven't had no problems in getting finding any work really, but it's not the work that I really want to do. I'm just working just to survive. It seems like almost need to go. I know I need to go back to school to finish my education, you know, but it's like I don't have the time really to do it because I'm focusing on trying to stay above water, to make sure I keep a roof over my head, to and it seems like a lot of companies are closing down. You may get hired. I have experience, not me personally, but I have known people who have went through a training. Then next week they found out the company's having a class, you know, they're going through bankruptcy. Like you're training people to start work one week, and then that next week you're telling everybody the company's closing down, or companies that's been operating for years. You know, they hire people on, you think you got a job and you're stable, then all of a sudden you go back to the job and they're saying we're closing, or we're cutting. People like, y'all should have known this beforehand. And I don't know.
So like good
I-
communication is what I'm hearing. Yeah, no. I think you're bringing up some pretty good points of like what's needed. You know what I mean? That early communication of like what's happening with the organization or what's happening with the company. I think that's absolutely reasonable as a job seeker for sure.
And I also find that the city of Pittsburgh, like you have to, like if we're in this is Pittsburgh, but as I said, I'm in a municipality of Braddock, but I have to live in the city of Pittsburgh to work in the city of Pittsburgh. That doesn't make no sense to me. I'm still in Allegheny County. Maybe 10 miles away from my job, but I have to either relocate, like certain jobs you got to relocate. Why? It's not like I live in Philadelphia. Some things don't make sense to me. Like I can't get a job in the city if I don't live in the city, or I have to relocate. And I find that jobs that I know I'm qualified for, that I know I'm a good fit for, it's like, why do I got to move in the city of Pittsburgh? All I have to do is just get on the bus. It takes me 30 minutes. It's not like I'm commuting from or drive my car as well, but it's not like I'm commuting 4 or 5 hours away. I think some things need to be changed as far as that goes. I guess I might as well let y'all go to the next question. I'm sorry. Right.
Well, Mary touches on a number of important topics that we kind of want to dig into, right? So what are some of the more common challenges that older workers in particular are seeing across the area? Like we've seen just recently, there's a number of layoffs that have happened in the area. The market has tightened significantly over the last couple of months. We have seen some companies that are closing, as we still hear alternatively that there are some employers that are still hiring at a fairly significant pace. What are some of the more common challenges that you all are seeing in terms of getting folks connected to some of these opportunities?
I'm seeing the challenges, especially for older workers, if they're not if they don't know how to use a computer, they don't know how to get on a phone. A lot of job applications is not the paper form. They want you to get online, fill out the job application. They want you to fill out all your forms, this and that. I know a lot of companies is leaving it up to you to fill out your not only your W-2, they want you to fill out your tax paper if you live outside the city for your borough. And if a person, an older adult, if they're not used to doing the computers, they're going to go back and forth online trying to get their application submitted. And if they get hired, they have problems of filling the form. A lot of forms are electronically signed and stuff. And I see that as a problem, maybe not a problem, maybe an issue, And if you don't have a job, once they hire you to assist you, like maybe you could come in one day for training or whatever to help you fill out the forms and stuff, but you have to have access to the internet. You have to have knowledge of how to get on. You have to have knowledge to, be able to fill out the forms and submit them properly, so that can be a real big issue, I believe.
Thank you.
Just to add on what Mary just said, when we talk about aging and age-friendly, a lot of times what I have seen is, I work with a lot of refugees and immigrants, who come here, and having no knowledge of the job market is number one. That's the challenge they face. Number two is language. Even if they are professionals who have had, higher level of education in their country, coming here in America and then starting something as an entry level, it's, it's really difficult for them to start as an entry level. For example, university professor comes to America and then starts to work as a production worker, let's say scanning meals at Amazon. So that is the kind of challenges that they face. It's all because of the language. And the other thing that, I have personally experienced is, I can talk from two sides, one from my own personal experience looking for a job, other one helping other people find job, So my personal experience is I didn't have a choice. So, when you first come, to a new country or new place, you have to make your ends meet. So you take whatever is available to you. That's what I did. I started working as a retail, sales associate at a clothing store, and then I built in from there. But many people, are hesitant to do that, and then there's a gap, and especially when you are aging and you have come from another country, you don't have the knowledge to do that. So, I feel like employers are not really willing to hire those, people. And from my, other perspective is that, what I have found working is identifying employers who are accommodating, who are willing to work with people from various backgrounds, and then looking into their website and finding out about their mission and vision and whether that aligns with your interests or not. Also finding out how inclusive they are in terms of diversity. I advise my client to do that. That's, and that has been working, because when you like the company, you do better, you perform well, and there's a chance of growth. But if you just enter something and then you don't like, you do it as a job, but you are not enjoying, then there's a chance to, you might get fired, or you might not want to do that job. So I feel like understanding the job market, understanding the company, and then putting your foot there would be a great way to enter a company.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. So thank you for that. So what are the supports then? My fault. Just as a kind of follow-up for you all as service providers, what are the sort of supports that you offer job seekers when we encounter these kind of challenges?
Yes, yeah, that's a great question. So how we support job seekers is what Mary just said before again, people don't know the technology, and nowadays, every single employment application is online. So we help people with application, we help them with technology. We teach them how to go to interview. If it is in person or virtual, we teach them different ways of interviewing, and we prepare them. People, when they are new and they are, let's say, 50 and above and don't know how to navigate, Pittsburgh, let's say, we even help them, showing them how to navigate Pittsburgh. So that's how we help.
Bonnie, can you chime in just a little bit there to kind of talk a little bit about some of what you've seen when it comes to supports, what folks are kind of asking for, recommendations for engaging an employer who may not be what they're expecting, but may have the willingness or may have the openness to be flexible?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting, Bishnu, to hear you talk about job seekers. Part of the challenge is them not understanding or having the knowledge around like the job market. And I think almost the same exact statement can be made for employers when we're looking at their side. And there are absolutely employers that are already aware and doing some phenomenal work around making their workplaces more equitable. But then I think there's that same exact challenge on the employer side, where many other employers are not fully understanding the new labor market, the new realities of this labor market that we're in right now. And so there are a lot of organizations that are, have long-standing systems in place that are very used to, when they have a job opening, they have a particular image in their mind of what that worker looks like. And that is sort of, fortunately, not our current labor market. And so it's pushing employers really to open that sort of that long-standing vision of what their workforce looks like, and really pushing them to expand that and to seriously consider individuals that they are not used to considering, and to not only consider them, but to see that diversity as extremely valuable, because we know that workplaces that are more diverse are more productive, they're more innovative, there is real value in thinking more creatively about how to recruit. So in some ways, the current labor market is a challenge, but in other ways, it's a really phenomenal opportunity to expand the workplace in general and to make it function better for a wider range of workers. And so, when I'm working with employers, more generally speaking, I think one of the best things that they can start to do, if they don't already do this, is incorporate worker voice in their day-to-day workplace practices. So worker voice would be any sort of practice where leadership within the organization regularly checks in with staff, particularly at the front line, at the lowest levels of the organization. And the purpose of doing that, and understanding that the purpose of doing that is because your frontline staff members have an enormous amount of expertise in that position. If there are issues happening on the front line, your frontline workers are the closest to those challenges, and they have the best solutions and the best ideas to hit at those challenges. In a similar way, checking in with staff at all levels helps you figure out what the workplace practices are that need to be changed. Job quality is extremely complex. There is a lot to think about. There is a lot to be done. And I think it's very common for leadership to try very hard to identify what they need to change and change it. And unfortunately, sometimes what they've identified as needing change is not really impactful for the workforce. And then there's frustration on both sides because there's all of this time and energy and investment that goes into job quality improvements that are not actually effective. And so your workforce also is frustrated because their job has not really improved. And so worker voice is a great way to be much more intentional about job quality investment in terms of time and money and effort. And the other thing I want to say about that is, worker voice often is accomplished through surveys. It can be other things too, though. It can be reverse mentorship models where if you have a mentoring program, occasionally you switch it up so that the mentee is the one actually providing recommendations and information up to the mentor. You can get really creative with these things, but no matter what you do, worker voice has to be safe. So employees have to feel like whatever they say, whatever they share, they're not going to have repercussions for that. It has to be responsive. So you have to be ready and prepared to act on the recommendations that you're hearing from your staff. And then it has to be transparent. That's the best way to build buy-in. So for example, if you hear something through worker voice as an employer and you're really not able to make changes in that area, it's really great to be transparent about that. It can be scary, but in a way being able to say, we heard you, we understand this is important. We can't make very big changes on this right now, but we want to, and we'll continue to think about and we'll continue to work towards being able to make those changes. So worker voice, I think, is a really important one, generally speaking. And then whenever I'm thinking about mature workers in particular, when we think of age-friendly workplace practices, some of the ones that come to mind are, we know that more and more mature workers, I shouldn't even say that, mature workers or mature individuals have had caretaking responsibilities for a long time. My grandmother babysat my brother and I so that my mom and my dad could work full time. So we know that individuals in their later years of life often step in that role, and they are caretakers within their family. And so workplace practices that we call family supportive practices also line up really well with age-friendly workplace practices because they hit on some of the same challenges. So those are things like flexible scheduling, paid leave or paid time off, hiring practices that intentionally remove historical biases. So Mary, I think your example of an employer asking you to send a video as an early step in the interview process, that to me is an opportunity to change that that workplace practice to make it a little bit more equitable, because I agree, generally speaking, interviewing and hiring practices, it's recommended to make them much more tied to skills and experience and much less tied to personal aspects. So things like skills-based hiring is a really great thing for employers to think about. Things like removing penalties for having gaps in work history. That's something that affects women who leave and then come back after having a child. It also affects mature workers, I think. So there's a lot of parallels between family friendly and age friendly, I think. And then just sort of generally, like when I say it's complex and there's so much an employer can do, there really is. The last really big one I would say on the age friendly front is flexible work arrangements. So not just scheduling, but really being flexible in the number of hours that can be worked, the way that the schedule framework is put together, flexibility in location, so whether or not a job can be done remote or work from home, and then flexibility in workload itself. So are you able to do job sharing? Are you able to reorganize work responsibilities in a way that's still fair but allows for really good accommodations for particular people? Can you do project-based work? So those are some general recommendations. I think if an employer is really interested in learning more, there's also an opportunity to lean on the support of the organizations we have here. So Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh, the website and the resources that are on there, reaching out to us, Partner for Work, and getting the support that they need, because we're here to offer guidance in that area as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate that really great wrap up. I think in general, I have to take the time, we would like to take the time to thank all three of you ladies for, sharing your unique expertise. This has been a really great 30 minutes that has gone by super fast, and having, these really tangible conversations about, employees' experiences, both from as an employee and then as a job seeker as well. So taking time to all three of you, thank you for your time, for your energy and your expertise here. We really appreciate it.
Special thanks to the following organizations for their contributions to the webinar. There will be a one-pager including tips for all ages relating to the content that you have seen and heard during this webinar series. Please feel free to reach out to any of these organizations for more information. This webinar series is brought to you by Age Friendly Greater Pittsburgh, an organization that seeks to ensure equitable and inclusive living for residents of the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County.